Welcome to A Taste of the Road. My name is Scott, and welcome to this 2017 Moto Guzzi V7 Mark III. In fact, racer number 182. So today we're going to be reviewing this out in the countryside of Virginia, just 30 or 40 miles or so west of my home, just outside of Washington, D.C. We're also going to be spending a little bit of time in a little hamlet called Plains, Virginia, which is a one-stop sign community, but has a lovely coffee shop and actually a couple of nice restaurants, including one that used to be owned by Robert Duvall back in the day. So I think a great place to start on this beautiful, sunny, but partly cloudy day reviewing this Moto Guzzi is to start with where the heart is, and that's this motor. So the highlights of which are 52 horsepower, 48 foot-pounds of torque, that torque coming on at a maximum of almost 5,000 RPM, 2-valve per cylinder, 744 cc's, V-twin that is transversely mounted, as all V-twin Moto Guzzis have been since the 60s, when they moved to this format, and it's a lovely motor. Doesn't obviously produce that much power. This story is not about horsepower, but about torque and where that torque is and how that translates itself through the chassis, which of course is shaft drive, and then just how it makes the rider feel and how you can interact with it. So the chassis, just to give a few stats here, has a nice set of Öhlins on the back, as the racer does. The Kayaba 40mm forks here are pretty decent up front, no adjustment, which is a bit of a shame, but that's what it is. But what really I think sets this racer apart is actually the frame and the steering geometry. And as a result of that, the front end, which has a decent amount of feel but not a huge amount, you're really steering through the chassis here. This is absolutely a machine where you need to get your braking done beforehand, set the bike up, have it settle down, and then go ahead and shift your body weight ever so slightly, obviously add a bit of power and come through the corner. One of the really nice things about this machine, given that it is not particularly powerful, is that it give you a chance to explore all of its capabilities. So many motorcycles, including my Ducati Monster 1200 S, have simply so much horsepower and torque as well that you can never really take advantage of all of it here on the street safely, or at least not without going to prison. And I have no interest in doing that, as most do not either. But as a consequence, what you can do here, if you would enjoy doing so, is heading out on a Saturday and you want to focus on some of your technical riding skills. So in this particular case, looking through a corner, thinking about where you want to position yourself, move your body ever so slightly, think about a delayed apex, if that's your thing, and then go ahead and execute that, and then do the same thing here again. What's lovely as well is that if you just simply want to, on a Sunday, mooch around and putter, this motor and this bike are absolutely going to be very happy to do so. It's a remarkably rideable and accommodating machine, no matter what type of riding that you might want to do, or obviously go ahead and mix it up. Something else that I think also is worth mentioning here before we hit our coffee stop in the Plains at Happy Creek is to talk about the ergonomics here. And it's certainly a pleasurable place to be. The foot, hips, and hand position is actually really pretty good. It's a cafe racer, but a pretty gentle one at that. I've needed to move around a little bit to get comfortable, but I think that would be true of any cafe racer, depending on your size, and I'm a pretty small guy. There isn't that much pressure on the wrists, which is definitely welcome, nor the hips or the feet and ankles. It's actually a pretty comfortable place. This windscreen kicks up a little bit of wind, and gets that out of the way. I feel a bit on my chest and a bit on the top of my head, helmet, but it's not bad in any way, shape, or form, and actually lifts you up a little bit, given that you're pretty exposed out into the elements here. The other ergonomics are also pretty comfortable. The Footpeg position when you go ahead and put your feet down, actually quite easy to do, regardless, I think, of height. So you can shift yourself back. The seat's quite comfortable, and if you're a taller person, you can go ahead and slide yourself back. Obviously, I don't really have to do that. And then finally, I think worth a mention here are some of the switch gear. So the clutch and brake are non-adjustable, and with my small hands it's been a little bit of a reach to get to them at times, but the pressure both for the brake and for the clutch are actually very gentle, progressive. Not a huge amount of feel. I would enjoy a little bit more, but it feels both of them. When you pull, and when you're looking, particularly on the clutch side, when you're looking for where that friction zone is, it is easy to find, and it is confidence inspiring because it behaves in exactly the same manner. Ditto the throttle over here on the right. It has a very linear feel to it, and rolls on and rolls off nicely. The fueling is very, very nice too, which is definitely welcome. The clocks, classy bit of kit staring at you all the time. The nice rounds here in chrome. The numbers the font is actually very easy to read, and flipping through the modes, this is a pretty simple bike. It does have traction control and ABS, but doesn't have a lot else, and really doesn't need it, particularly with this level of power and the type of motorcycle that this is, excuse me. It absolutely is for cruising and for hammering around, but you're never going to twist yourself or the bike in knots. So we are just outside of the plains. Let's go ahead and head over to Happy Creek, have a bit of mocha or cortado and enjoy that, and then head back out on the road to talk about this bike some more, talk about its competition, a few shortcomings that it has, and then sum up. So I will see you there. That was a lovely stop at Happy Creek. I had my usual hot mocha, which hit the spot for an afternoon boost of some caffeine to hit these nice twisty roads again in the afternoon. Some lovely blue skies you can see, and a few white clouds floating by. It's in the low 80s now. They also started carrying some Trickling Springs ice cream, which is pretty local to us, and they do a very nice job. So showed a bit of discipline and only got one scoop as opposed to my usual 2 or 3, given my nasty sweet tooth, and that hit the spot as well. So transitioning back to this V7 and the Racer version and thinking about its competition, which there is certainly plenty in the marketplace. Long-standing competitors would be Street Twin from Triumph, various iterations of that to speak of, such as the Scrambler that they have and whatnot. Obviously, for this one, I think, it's very Italian in the sense that it has that it has its transversely mounted V-twin at 90 degrees, which the brand has used since the 1960s. It has a very, very Italian feel, very unique, nevertheless, from Ducati and Aprilia and some of the others, both past and present. But it just has a real sense of place. There is a real sense of place with this bike, which is wonderful, and it's simply laconic. Soft edge nature. It's very willing to play several roles with its rider and be a very accomplished dancing partner with just a little bit of understanding of how it likes to be treated, which is being deliberate, planning for your corners and for your exits. It does not reward for being ham-fisted or for trying to push it too hard, but it's precisely that technical riding sometimes that I've been practicing off camera earlier today that's been very, very satisfying. I think in terms of areas where it struggles a little bit, and there are some, after all, no bike is perfect, probably number one on my list would be, I think the front end is a little bit soft. I'd like a little bit more feel, and I'd like there to be some adjustment on the front end, which simply doesn't exist. It does on the rear, and you can certainly tell those Olins play a very nice role in keeping things composed on the back end. The other thing that's been frustrating, which you may have been able to see, is this flashing little indicator here. It pops on about 4,200 RPM, reminding me to upshift, and I don't feel I really need it, considering the fact that the torque curve peaks out at 4,900 RPM and the peak horsepower is at 6,200. It does, to an extent, reward for revving out, but doing so in a deliberate manner, again, without the ham-fistedness. I think where it struggles a little bit too, at least for those of us such as myself with small hands, is it'd be really nice if there were some adjustable clutch and brake levers here on the front. They have a decent feel, as I mentioned earlier, but I would certainly appreciate some ability to bring them in a little bit. Nothing I'm sure the accessories catalog can't solve, but I do think it would be nice in this day and age that it be provided for 10 grand. I don't think that is too much to ask. In the areas of reliability, I do check the forums, of course, before I do a review like this. There's a traditional, not really issue, but something just to work around as a quirk is the transmission, and I certainly have felt that today at various points where, because this is a relatively new bike with I think about 1,700 miles on it or so at this juncture, there have been a few occasions when I have missed a shift or when it's been a bit difficult to go ahead and get into neutral. Not impossible, but a very traditional Guzzi trait, and something that gets better with time. And I suspect that the more miles you roll on this, and it's easy to see why the owner of this motorcycle will be spending considerable or putting considerable mileage on it, is that it will get simply better and better. And I think on the topic of value, it's a very interesting one where both the brand and this particular V7 Racer is concerned. So as always, I check out Cycle Trader and graze in the classifieds to see what's out there, looking a little bit lonely. And interestingly enough, this bike, which lists for about 10 grand, the other versions of the V7 vary a little bit, not really that much different. But there are still brand new 2017 Racers, just like this one, for sale, that are selling for a little over 8 grand here in the US, with maybe 5 miles on them. Find a model or an example that has perhaps 500 miles on it, and you're looking at maybe 7,500 bucks. The owner of this one, who picked it up actually a month ago as a demo, paid even less than that. And so if you want to start at 7,500, we'll say, or maybe 7,000, this is an astonishing amount of bike for 7 grand. The fit and finish, just the detailing, the surfaces, this aluminum tank, the red frame, the blacked out bits and pieces. You've got Brembo brakes up front. They are not radial, but are axial, but given the weight and the style and the approach of this bike, more than adequate enough to provide certainly plenty of stopping power. And it has just a wonderful feel to it on top of that, and that's just something you can't fix. There are certainly changes one could make to the front suspension. You could change the tires out for a little bit more feel, etc. But all of these other detailings, whether it's the weld points, which I was taking a look at, you even look underneath and there is just some wonderful detailing that you just can't find anyplace else, and that you wouldn't be able to achieve yourself, or at enormous cost, which simply wouldn't be worth it. So I think in sum, or taking it in full, this is a very unique product, and at a price point both for the Racer as well as all of the other V7s, that it represents, I think, outstanding value for money. So how to sum up this V7 Racer from Moto Guzzi today? For me, the standout features have to be this Playful and Torquey motor. It's been a wonderful dance partner. Obviously not the most powerful by any stretch, but willing to dance a technical routine, willing to go ahead and just have some fun. Completely up to you as a rider as to what you want to accomplish and how quickly or not quickly you want to go on some of these back roads like this today. I think also just how it looks, quite frankly. It's got a lot of tasty looking kit on it, and the build quality is exceptional. This bright red frame, well joints, the paint, all just are absolute standouts. This tank and what looks like just clear coat aluminum looks wonderful, and the shaft drive system, as well as again other blacked out pieces on this particular model, really just stand out, and certainly to speak of a level of fit and finish and attention to detail that the Italians do. The Italians do so well, and that you just simply can't find elsewhere. And, you know, unless you go ahead and spend a lot of money. And finally, I think certainly how it has made me feel today. This is a quirky bike, but it's been enjoyable to try and discover what those quirks are, work around some of them, but also celebrate what they are as well. It provides a very unique riding experience, whether it's hitting a corner like this and simply feeling what that transverse engine V-twin is doing, to think through what it is that I want to accomplish, and that get your braking done ahead of time, and you really feel the bike through the chassis, not the front end. I have certainly had pleasure today figuring out exactly what she likes most and how to reward or create a rewarding ride as a result. Plus, if you're a new rider or a seasoned one, you need a more emotional experience with a motorcycle, I would strongly encourage you to go take a look at a V7 in any of its forms. I think you would find it to be a very rewarding experience, and the quirks would simply add to the joy and the pleasure of spending time on roads like these, or even perhaps your morning or afternoon commute to and from home. And so with this, I think I will close out the review. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyable. Please give it a thumbs up if you can. Subscribe if you enjoy being alerted to new videos as they become available for bikes and cars and food. Most importantly, please go out and create your own adventure. See something that you do know in a new way, or something completely new, and then share that with us in the comments below so that we can build this community. That's very important. And with that, I think I will bid you adieu, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao.